So you would think it would be pretty obvious why working for free as a game developer would be bad. But it must not be, because so many people are doing it. Newsflash people, it's bad. It's really bad. It's bad for you, and it's also bad for the games industry as a whole. And here are the reasons why. So reason number one, the unpaid job is probably illegal. And I'm not a legal expert, by the way. I'm just going off the research I've done. But, every country has different laws. But generally, if you want to work unpaid for a for-profit business, it will likely violate labor laws. And I mean, straight up, this point alone should be the deterrent from you working these types of jobs. But it seems that people aren't even aware of this. If a for-profit studio is caught violating these laws, both you and your employer may be prosecuted. Probably more likely the employer will be penalized compared to you, but still, why risk even breaking the law? But that being said, there are some things some companies can do to get around these laws. Like if the company can prove that they are providing you with an education that's comparable to that of a college or something. But the majority of game studios that are doing this, they're startups. They're not doing this stuff. They're made by stupid business people who have literally no game dev experience. It's super scummy, and these people should be ashamed of themselves. Though I will say, if the company is a non-for-profit or a charity, then ignore this point. It doesn't apply. They have way more leeway when it comes to legalities. So reason number two, when you volunteer your talent for free, it'll make employers feel like they don't need to hire paid workers. So by you doing this, you're actually denying someone else a paid opportunity. And I'm sorry guys, what I'm about to say isn't going to sound that nice. If you're someone who works for someone else unpaid, then you're being selfish. It's true. You are contributing to lowering the standards of the games industry. And in my opinion, this is the worst one because it feels so self-inflicted. It's something that should be easy to change. But so many people just lack the education on this type of thing. And the problem is some people only learn when they actually do the thing. It's going to take people getting smashed down a lot for them to realize, what's truly happening. So from what I can tell, there's probably a few thousand game devs worldwide that are volunteering or trying to volunteer their time. And you might think, oh, only a few thousand people, that doesn't sound like much. Surely this isn't a problem. Trust me, this is making all the difference. Once you give the studio owner the taste of free labor, it's like a drug. Or when it's like when a shark smells blood, they fall in love with it. Then word gets out and more stupid studio owners do the same thing and it becomes a never-ending cycle of exploitation. That is exactly how volunteer game devs are making the industry tougher, not only for themselves, but for everyone else. But luckily, it's not too late to stop this. The games industry having this unpaid phenomenon, it's still new. It's a new thing. And if you're already in this thing, you're going to have to step up and ask your boss for money. And if that doesn't work, then you just have to quit. And tell your friends to do the same thing. If they're stuck in this situation, help a friend out, help a friend out. If we can convince these few thousand people not to give away their time for free, then I actually think we have a good chance of fixing the games industry. I know there's a bunch of other things to do, but that would be an amazing start. All right, so reason number three. It actually proves to other employers that you value your time at $0 an hour. Even if you somehow miraculously get a paid job offer, later on, they're probably going to lowball you, it just makes the most sense. You can imagine the employer thinking, this person worked for free. Oh, that's a very noble thing to do. Yeah, they passed the art test. Just offer them the federal minimum wage. It's way better than what they had before. For sure, they're going to accept it. And that is the point. They know it's better than what you've already worked for. Congrats. I mean, you're going to officially be getting paid, but now you're going to be getting paid less than what you could have. If you didn't show that you volunteered your work for free and that you rated yourself worth $0 an hour, maybe they would have to think twice about what they would offer you. But since they know it's $0 an hour, why not just give you the minimum? It's better than zero. All right, so reason number four. Most volunteer game studios, they're just going to fail horribly, and it is what it is. A lot of the times, they're just never going to release what they've worked on. The boss is never satisfied, and they just want more and more and more. I've spoken to many ex-employees from a bunch of studios, and a lot of the times I hear that the leadership is insufferable, they don't know what they're doing, and they have just such massive egos. And that ego, a lot of the time, is why they never release the project. And even if they do release the project that they're working on, it's probably not gonna, like, chances are it's gonna get zero reaction, zero clicks. It's gonna barely do anything. So you're gonna be working for free for really no result in the end. And one thing I have noticed, I think I'm going to talk about this later actually, is that they have no social media presence. You know, these startup companies literally have done nothing to grow their community. You know, and they're working on these games. They're hiring like 30 people, and just nothing is going to eventuate at the end. It's really, really sad. So reason number 5, you're probably going to get treated like crap. And how ironic, you're gonna get zero pay and you're gonna be treated like crap too. I mean, this would be totally different if you're getting paid. I mean, if you're getting paid for your work, but you're getting treated like crap, that's one thing. And that's, you know, you could almost accept that. But imagine getting paid nothing and still being treated like shit. And you know, it's not uncommon that I see these studios enforcing working a minimum amount of hours per week. I mean, how fucking predatory is that? You have to work a minimum amount of hours per week for an unpaid job. And you know, that's not even the end of it. I've seen places require you to do an unpaid test for an unpaid job. I mean, this is one of the biggest red flags there is. If your goal is to get taken advantage of, then just sign up to this and it's gonna happen. And I know I spoke about legalities in point 1, but I want to say something. The US Department of Labor and the other countries' equivalents have got to wake up, man. On paper, they seem like they are tough, but in actual practice, they are incredibly weak. The enforcement is a joke, and it's a fucking circus, if I've got to be honest. Like in the past, I reported 2 game studios which do this kind of thing. You know, they're requiring minimum hours per week for an unpaid job that's for a for-profit studio. You know, so I called the Department of Labor up, and my call got referred like 3 separate times to 3 separate government officials, just for them to say, oh, we've never dealt with this before, so we're not really sure what to do. Like, yeah, I get it. You know, it's a new thing. It used to be simpler. Like before working from home was popular. You know, you used to go to work, get paid, and then go home. But now that you're working from home, it's like detracted a layer of authenticity. You know, it's a lot harder to verify whether or not something is legit. And the problem is many of us game devs just don't know our rights, you know? Like a lot of game devs are also very overly passionate as well, like too passionate. You know, that's why they're probably more willing to work for free versus someone who's doing like a warehouse job. Like imagine lifting heavy boxes, 30 kilogram boxes, all day, every day. Would you work for free and do that for free? No, I don't think many people would do that. But for some reason, game devs, it's okay because we're too passionate. And that's something that I've been arguing for a long time. People need to get a reality check. We need to give people, like, it's a job just like any other industry. You know, it shouldn't be treated much different. Just because we love games doesn't mean that we should subject ourselves to worse treatment. And these studio owners, they're loving this shit, man. They're getting off on this. So like I was saying before, I asked the department, well, you know, what's going to happen? And they said, yeah, we don't know. As you weren't personally affected, it's going to be hard for us to move forward. And then I didn't hear anything back. And, you know, I checked those companies. They still exist. You know, they're still trading. So I guess maybe it might be worth looking into if you're personally affected. But since I wasn't personally affected, I wasn't able to get nowhere. But it's wrong, but I actually have alternative solutions, which I'm going to talk about later. So reason number 6. Sometimes they actually make you sign an NDA or a contract that has ridiculous clauses designed to screw you over. So by signing an NDA, you're actually contractually obligated not to publicly share the work that you do, which means no showcasing it on your portfolio. Pretty fucking ironic, because a lot of these studios in their job posts like to brag and preach that it would be a great opportunity for you to, quote, improve your portfolio. What a joke! And then in the same post, you're asked to sign an NDA. It's just fucking crazy. Imagine not getting paid. It's like you're getting double screwed because you can't show your stuff off. You know, isn't that the whole point? Ugh. And I want to bring up one particular use case because I know some people are going to be thinking, oh, Spalato Bros, you know, like that's just straight up wrong. You know, you just have to wait until they release the game and then you can show it off, mate. Just refer back to point 4. Here's the timestamp, and please just fucking listen, all right? So please, everyone, only sign an NDA if you're getting paid for it. It's a fucking no-brainer, yet I see this shit happening all the time. And here's another point about getting treated like crap, you know? How else can you get taken advantage of? How about the age-old getting lied to and dumped? And no, I'm not talking about your high school fling. I'm talking about a studio owner who has all the power to do whatever they please. They can kick you out whenever they want. They can take your name off the credits and deny ever working with you. They can get your assets and silently sell them on the side. And worst of all, which was recently told to me by an ex-employee of one of the studios I've covered, they have a system to track your hours worked. And after months of working, this person didn't feel like continuing on. You know, they needed money. You know, they were getting another job and they just couldn't justify working a minimum set amount of hours per week for an unpaid gig that's not going to yield anything. So this person asked the boss if they can quit. And the boss tells them, yes, you can quit, but there's a catch. You have to give 90 days of notice. If not, your hours will be deleted and you won't be paid once the game potentially could make a profit. So I felt really bad for this person, and like 90 days is a fucking long time. So, you know, they really couldn't spare the time. So they quit, and they all those months that they spent working on the project, gone, deleted. So it's like, in the end, it doesn't even matter. So lesson for all of you, always read the fine print. Always double check it, triple check it, ask questions, you know, get things clear. Because, you know, there's just another way you can get screwed over. And you know, I'm so tempted to name the studio that does this, but if I do, the video might get restricted in the UK. It turns out you're not allowed to speak your mind in that country. So, but that studio, who I know has watched my videos in the past, should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed. So, reason number 7, it convinces you not to apply for other paid positions because you already feel like you're busy working. You know, you could be missing out on progressing your career. And, you know, it doesn't even have to be in the games industry. You could be putting off getting a job somewhere else in some other industry, which denies you from earning money and then saving said money. If you have an eventual goal to get a house deposit or save money to have a family, you're essentially delaying it, right? And for those who think AI is going to take over and take all the jobs, well then that's even more reason to abandon this unpaid crap and find paid work. Because if time's limited, then you're going to need to use that time to get the money. But, you know, even I have this problem where, because I work freelance, sometimes I don't have any work to do. So I spend my leftover time working on my YouTube channel. Like, to be fair, at least that's my own thing. You know, I'm working on my own thing. You could even technically consider it a side hustle, even though it's like not enough to live off yet. But still, like in some ways, I put off applying for jobs because I make myself busy with my YouTube. That being said though, if it's your eventual goal to start your own studio, doing YouTube stuff and trying to grow a community is actually pretty essential. So, and it takes time. You know, I've been doing this for almost a year now. It takes a long time to be able to build like a loyal community. And you know, it's also for a good cause too. I want to help the industry, like make an actual difference, because I'm just so sick of seeing people getting taken advantage of, and it just drives me nuts. And reason number 8, which I think is the last reason actually, most studios I've come across that do this unpaid volunteer stuff have just horrible leadership. And I'm talking stupid business people with little to no game dev experience. I think I was talking about this before, but why would you work for a dumbass? Like, what is there to learn from them? Like, obviously this doesn't apply to every single volunteer studio. You know, we do have a few competent leaders who actually know what they're doing and know how to make games. Like, in all honesty, they approach their goals in a really unethical and potentially illegal way. You know, so in short, don't. Just straight up don't. So yeah, in conclusion, those are my reasons why you shouldn't work for free as a game developer. Okay, so now you're going to listen to me, and I have a bunch of rebuttals for responses that may happen. Oh, Spolata bros, you're just a rage baiter who's full of shit. I worked for free, and it gave me experience, and I was able to land a job because of it. My response to that is, congratulations, mate. You're a unicorn. Why don't you go out in the field and prance around with your rainbows and other unicorns, okay? Just because it worked out for you doesn't mean it's going to work out for the thousands of other naive game developers that are working for free. Also, if the guy who got you to work for free didn't themselves give you the paid job that you're talking about, then you still got milked. You still got used and taken advantage of. I've already listed 8 separate reasons why it's bad to work for free. If you disagree, name the reason and say why it's wrong. And here's another potential comment. Oh, you know, you say all this stuff, but where's your data, bro? Well, the data doesn't exist yet. I mean, who's documenting game devs who work for free versus being successful in the industry? maybe one day we could look into that, though I'm not really prepared to do that now because we don't have the view count to get a large enough sample size. And another response that, now that I think about it, I think I did talk about this before, but that would say something like, oh, Spillato Bros, what are you worried about? This isn't really a problem. It's not even that bad. No, I disagree. This is bad. If you have thousands of game devs who are more than happy to work unpaid, that's 1,000 less potential jobs on the market. If these people weren't willing to work for free, these stupid business people might be forced to suck it up. If they want to make their dream come true, it's going to cost them mullah. But the fact is, they're not spending the mullah because the people are willing to work for free. So we're denying ourselves, at least probably a couple of hundred jobs at the very least. It makes a difference. With how bad the industry is, it really makes a difference. So I've given you guys a bunch of reasons for why it's bad to work for free. But we also have to consider, what is the solution? What's the possible solutions we could have to this problem? What should you do instead? And that's a great question. And I actually have some answers. Answer one, and this is going to depend on person to person, but answer one, if you really need money, I'd get a part-time job doing something else. It could be anything. It could be restaurant waiting, cashier, whatever. And, just continue building your game development skills on the side and just keep applying here and there when you can. Maybe something will hit. Another thing you could do is just focus on game jams. Don't work for someone's, startup studio, and join a game jam and be a part of a collaborative community that makes it so you actually own the product that you make at the end of the day. It's a much better alternative. You get to meet new people. And one of the good things is there's usually fixed deadlines, which a lot of these startups don't have. It's like an ongoing thing. They don't set goals. They don't set goals. You would think, oh, guys, in 6 months, let's release. They don't have that plan. They just want to build, and then they'll release on vibes. If the owner feels like, oh, it might be a good time to release now, that's when they would consider releasing. It's so fucking bad. Game jams, much better. So the solutions I just spoke about are a bit more surface level. If you would like to help out more and you want to go a step beyond, then spread this message. Say no to unpaid work. This has become a movement now. If we can convince game devs to not work for free, then these studio owners will either have to close their doors or, create paid opportunities for us. Wouldn't that be fucking great? So remember, say no to unpaid work. And as for the meantime, I'm just going to continue my series where I catalog indie studios with red flags so that people can make more informed decisions about the games industry. And we don't let these bad people, whether or not they're purposely bad or accidentally bad, and I really hate both of these types of people equally. Ignorance can be so tilting sometimes that actually can make them look like they're arguably worse than someone that's doing it on purpose. Because at least they're being cunning. You can sort of respect that they're smart enough to try to take advantage of people. But I don't want this to happen. Why let them take advantage of people? And why let them make the games industry worse? So, and the thing I love about this catalog system, and when I make videos of these studios, it actually works. I've had the studio owners contact me with various things. That one of the typical is defamation. Why are you targeting us? Wah! Fucking mate, you're not fucking special, right? You're just one of the many indie studios that's doing the wrong thing. And as for the defamation point, I'm just giving my honest opinion, reacting to the crap that's put in the job posts or what is posted by you guys online. That's literally all I'm doing. Literally just reacting to the content that you post. How is that defamation? I don't fucking know. And yeah, I'm happy to end it right there. So I'm curious, are you currently working for free or do you know someone that is? If so, send this video to them. And for everyone else, what do you guys reckon? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, see you in the next video. Got something to expose? Call the Spillato Bros.